You did it this morning. You checked your phone before you even got out of bed. Maybe you told yourself it was just a quick look. Maybe you've already felt a small spike of anxiety before your feet hit the floor. And here is the strange part. You did not choose that. Something older than language, older than civilization, son, older than the concept of a morning, made that decision for you. Your brain is not a modern machine, okay? That is an ancient one running in a world it was never built for. Think about what you are for a moment. Not who you are, what you are. You are a biological system that was shaped piece by piece over millions of years. To survive a world that no longer exists, the environment that built your brain, the savannas, the forests, the small tribes, the constant low grade threat of predators and starvation, that world has been gone for thousands of years. But your brain does not know that. It never got the update. Neuroscientist David Eagleman calls this the mismatch problem. The idea is simple. Hmm. Your neural hardware evolved for one environment and is now being asked to run software it was never designed for. The result is not a clean, rational thinker navigating a modern world. The result is you, anxious in traffic, hooked on social media, paralyzed, paralyzed by too many choices at a restaurant, terrified of public speaking more than you are afraid of things that might actually kill you. That fear of public speaking is the first clue. Studies consistently show that humans rank the fear of social rejection and public embarrassment above the fear of death. Why would evolution produce that? Because for most of human history, being cast out of your group was a death sentence. There was no surviving alone on the open savanna. Your brain learned over hundreds of thousands of years that belonging was survival. Social rejection was not just uncomfortable, it was lethal. And that ancient calculation is still running in your nervous system right now, firing panic signals every time you feel watched or judged. You never consciously chose that fear, you inherited it. The same logic applies to your appetite. You do not lack willpower. Your brain was built to crave sugar, salt, and fat with intensity, that fat with an intensity perfectly calibrated for an environment where those things were rare and precious. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has spent decades studying how the mismatch between our evolved appetites and our modern food environment explains the obesity crisis better than any character flaw ever could. For most of human prehistory, encountering a source of dense calories was an event your brain learned to say, eat as much as you can right now. There is no tomorrow guaranteed. Instruction reaction. That instruction is still active. It just encounters a vending machine instead of a honey hive. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long term planning, impulse control, and rational decision making, is the newest addition to the human brain. It is also the slowest, the most energy expensive, and the first to go offline under stress. Under phase 2 sits the limbic system, your ancient threat detection, hardware firing fast and decisive. Something feels like a threat. When something feels like a threat, your limbic system does not wait for a meeting with the prefrontal cortex. It acts. And what counts as a threat is still being decided by circuits that were calibrated for cave life. Your phone buzzing is not a threat, but the part of your brain tracking your social standing, who responded to you, who ignored you. Achis. A. Whether your status in the group has shifted does not know the difference between a missed text and a missed warning from a tribesman. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, famous for his research on social group size, showed that the human brain evolved to track relationships with roughly 150 people. That is the number where our social cognition begins to break down. Now consider the average social media feed. Thousands of faces. Thousands of implies a Relationships. Your ancient social brain is running at maximum capacity all day, every day, trying to process a social world that is orders of magnitude larger than anything it evolved to handle. No wonder you feel exhausted. Here is where it gets darker. Your brain is not just outdated, it is specifically wired to keep you alive by making you miserable. Psychologist Rick Hansen coined the phrase the negativity bias to describe a feature of the human brain that is almost cruel in its persistence. Negative experiences stick, positive ones slide off. One harsh criticism lands harder than 10 compliments. One bad day outweighs a good week. This is not pessimism, it is design. An ancestor who forgot a dangerous snake's encounter was more likely to die than an ancestor who forgot a pleasant sunset. The brain that survived, the brain you have, learned to weight threats more heavily than rewards. That system runs constantly, scanning your life for danger, cataloging losses, replaying mistakes, not because something is wrong with you, but because something is working exactly as intended for an environment that no longer exists. The cave is gone. The system is still running. Now consider sleep. Your ancestors did not sleep in one long 8-hour block. Historian Roger Ikirch discovered through analysis of pre-industrial written records across multiple cultures that segmented sleep, two separate sleep periods divided by an hour or two of quiet wakefulness, was the human norm for most of history. That middle of the night waking that you have spent years fighting, the one that fills you with low level dread, it may not be insomnia. It may be your brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, surfacing briefly in the dark hours, checking for danger, then returning to rest. The modern demand for one consolidated, uninterrupted block of unconsciousness may be the anomaly. Your anxiety about waking at 2 in the morning may be adding stress to a process that, in your ancestral past, was perfectly ordinary. You have been fighting your own normal. This is the pattern underneath all of it. Your anxiety in crowds, your tendency to catastrophize. The way a single unkind comment can follow you for days. The pull of gossip, the obsession with status, the fear of being left out. Oh, the overwhelming urge to check, all of it traces back to the same source. A brain that was built piece by piece for a world that disappeared. Optimized for Viviolari, a machine optimized for certain conditions it will never encounter again, running its ancient programs on modern hardware. Inside modern circumstances, producing modern suffering that has no language it can fully name. And here is the counterintuitive twist. Knowing this does not fix it. Telling your amygdala that the email notification is not a predator does not make the cortisol stop. But it changes something. It changes the meaning. When the anxiety comes, and it will, you are not broken. You are ancient. When the voice in your head replays the worst version of every scenario, it is not lying to you. It is doing its oldest job. When you feel the pull of the tribe, the panic of disconnection, the H for belonging, that is not weakness. That is the oldest software in your body running a program that once kept your ancestors alive. The cave is gone, but the brain remembers it. See? And every time your chest tightens in traffic, every time a notification hijacks your attention, every time you feel the crush of social judgment in a room full of strangers, that is your ancient brain, still on watch, still scanning the horizon for threats that no longer come. You are not overreacting to the modern world. You are a cave dweller inside it. And understanding that, really sitting with it, is the first and only update your brain will actually allow.